Well, hello there, motherfuckers. Yeah. It's time for your Raw review. You know the shtick. Okay, so you all know that before we even get started here, there's gonna be a massive rant at the end of this video. But I'm sorry, I can't contain myself here because let's just face it, the result of the main event of this show was so ludicrous, and people wanted it. They asked for so long. WWE was planning it at one point, but I didn't think they'd actually pull the trigger. No, I'm not surprised that they ended up doing so, but they ended up doing so. So we'll get to that in a bit. I will try to, do this in the normal format, which, most people enjoy, so I won't spoil it by jumping ahead too much. So we started off with Braun Strowman chasing after Baron Corbin. We kind of had a bit of an old school feel here, needless to say, actually. Braun coming up to the limo, smashing it with a lead pipe. He pulled the driver out of the window, which was actually pretty funny, and threw him over the hood. That was actually, I thought, pretty cool. Then Corbin runs away. He ended up, ripping the door off the hinges, as I mentioned. And then Vince McMahon comes along, and it's actually his limo. And McMahon is not too pleased. He also kind of did his whole, weirdo Vince routine, which I don't know if it's intentional, if he's supposed to be like crazy man Vince, or he's supposed to be a little bit weird now. But, once again, he was like, hey, what are you doing with my door? And it's just, I mean, McMahon makes me cringe now. I'm probably the biggest Vince McMahon fan, and I've said it a number of times. I think that Vince McMahon is probably one of the greatest, personalities in the entire WWE. I said, Austin McMahon is my favorite storyline of all time, and it's not just because of Austin, but, it was 50-50. It was McMahon and it was Austin working together for, that very successful storyline. And, McMahon now, I mean, what can we expect from an older, Vince McMahon? I mean, the thing is, though, it's just sad to see him kind of in this state is what it is. So, Vince gets pissed off. He orders him to pay $100,000. Braun says that it's not worth that, so he takes him out of the WWE Championship match. The Universal title match, whatever belt it is, doesn't even really matter. So, here's the thing about this. So I was looking at some news, and it appears that they never even intended for Braun Strowman to even be in this title match. Can you believe that? They actually didn't even have any intention of ever putting him in this match. It was a bait and switch, and I believe it. Meltzer Magoo is reporting it, but I actually believe, a lot of what the dirt sheets say is true. There's, for so long they've said that, Heyman kind of feeds them shit. So this kind of sounded very feasible, and the reason is that, WWE felt that Royal Rumble being, headlined by Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, that would be a match that would sell, not the actual main event that they were, planning to have, which we'll get to at the end of the show. And, I'm having a hard time really containing myself here. I'm really trying here. I want to really Balor. Okay, I'm just trying to, get my point across here, but okay. It's just really on the tip of my tongue here, but anyway, Braun gets pissed off. He flips the limo over. It started off good, but then it kind of just dissolved. And, here was the thing. We didn't see Braun Strowman for the rest of the night. And I'll get to that also in a bit. So Ronda Rousey teams up with Sasha Banks to defeat Tamina and Nia Jax. So, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was Nia's cute little comment of, we're here too, and she kind of had a few people of color, she had some emojis that she posted on WWE's official Twitter page, when they showed a bunch of the white girls, and it was really cringy, and it looks like maybe that's the reason why they kind of just got obliterated here, and they've been for weeks, and so, I'm not really too sure what the deal is here with Nia, but it's like, what a waste. They brought Tamina back, they kind of made it seem like she was going to be somewhat of a threat, and now she's in this pointless tag team, when it kind of seems like Tamina could be a star on her own. I don't know what happened. I thought we were going to get a big, Tamina, Nia Jax match, and that never happened. Still, we get a lame team, and I thought maybe the team might be okay, but this is about as lame as it gets, and they're just basically jobbers at this point. I mean, what would you call them? And then they do an in-ring promo with Sasha Banks, and, I'm really, just kind of... Would you believe that people actually think that Sasha Banks is hot? Like, really? I mean, honestly, are we really gonna, I just don't see, what's attractive about her. But anyway, to each his own, if you find Sasha Banks to be, your dream girl, then go for it. We all have our own type, I suppose, but, I'm gonna be grading her here, as I always do on, her in-ring and her promos and all that, and needless to say, y'all know I'm not a big fan. I mean, she ended Paige's career. I mean, it doesn't matter how many people say that, Paige agreed to the spot and everything. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it. I don't think anybody would really willingly agree to be kicked in the back of the head. And if they did, I think the agents should have stepped in, whatever, the officials, whatever they're calling them nowadays. I believe that somebody should have stepped in and put an end to that fucking madness. I mean, can you imagine, the agents are there for people's safety, for the competitors in there, and make sure they don't do anything too stupid, and they're okaying a kick to the back of the head when, first of all, the whole thing about that is I don't know how she could agree to it, because it was pretty evident that Paige wasn't ready for the kick. I mean, because she wouldn't have gotten as hurt as she was if she was expecting it. I don't think, but whatever the case may be. And Rousey kind of did this routine, where Sasha kind of got offended for some reason. I mean, what did she get offended by exactly here? It was she felt like Ronda was kind of writing her off as another opponent. Can they ever just have a storyline where you just don't go, huh? Why does it have to be so convoluted all the time? It's why do we always have to guess, well, that's what triggered the feud? Can't they just... I don't even care if it's generic at this point. That didn't even make any sense. That would not be a natural reaction to a situation, like this. If that were to happen in real life, would anybody really get offended by that? So Ronda's kind of oh, no, Sasha, I didn't mean it. They need to stop that. Stop that with Rousey. I mean, I would say right now, but they've been doing it now for over a year. Ronda saying, oh no, please don't get offended by me. Why does she care? She's supposed to be a badass. She breaks people's arms. And she's all concerned about hurting Sasha Banks' feelings. Jar Jar Sasha Banks. I mean, honestly, is she really going to be, that concerned with people's feelings? PC Ronda Rousey? I mean, I don't get it. Like I said, she's such a good talent, but they always have to do, if it's not the smiling, it's sympathetic Rousey about to cry with the Bellas. Oh, why are you being so mean to me? I don't care if she ends up getting her revenge in the end and kicking people's asses. I mean, that's great, But like, needless to say, it's like, what? Why even like expose her like that? Like, you're basically saying like, oh, she's a sympathetic character. Like, no, she's not. She's a UFC fighter. Don't show us that side of, Ronda Rousey on Ellen. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see the badass Rousey, the reigning women's champion in UFC. And I mean, we get to see that during the matches, but during the build, it's always so cringeworthy. Then backstage, it's a whole line of wrestlers, and like, this was very lazy. Like, they just had like a few wrestlers, like Kurt Hawkins, like waiting for an opportunity backstage. It was Apollo Crews, and Jerry the King Lawler like comes out of the office, and I'm like, okay, great. I mean, you guys know that I'm all for Lawler. Put him back on the commentary table. Get rid of Graves. Get rid of Renee Young. Get rid of Michael Cole. Whoever you got to get rid of. Just put Lawler on there already. Just, I mean, come on. Like, we should have Lawler, Booker T, and Mauro Ranallo. I mean, that would be incredible. Can you imagine all the entertainment you'd have right there? Like a heel Lawler and a Mauro Ranallo, and kind of like a Booker T as a middleman, like a tweener kind of. That would be great. Just let Booker T do what he does. But all we see is like Lawler kind of doing a surprised face as No Way Jose marches by. Like, you got Jerry the King Lawler here for the night, and that's all you're gonna do with him? Okay. The Revival defeated the Lucha House Party. Oh, so we're doing a great job with the fresh start. Didn't Seth Rollins say, the Revival should be doing more, like wrestling for the tag championships? And there they are, back to square one, facing off against the Lucha House Party, because, that's a fresh start. That's a hashtag fresh start right there. And, you've got this thing where they've failed to win the tag titles on a number of occasions. They gave them multiple chances over the past couple of weeks, and they did this thing where they like it was either like Dash or Wilder, whoever that fuck it was. I don't even know. I can't even fucking tell them apart. I mean, they're not twins, but I mean, like, the names, I don't even know. It's Revival member number 1 and Revival member number 2 to me. So, one of them is getting pinned. The other one takes the guy's foot, throws it off the ropes, and like, oh, they're beating the conspiracy. Well, what exactly is the conspiracy? What's the storyline here? What, because last week, one of them had their feet underneath the ropes when they got pinned? Like, does anybody remember that or care? The sad thing is I actually kind of remember it. Why I'm saying it, that's, I get the storyline they're going for here, but that was pretty weak. And if they have to cheat to beat the Lucha House Party, I mean, that really shows how much stock they have in these guys. I mean, first of all, who the fuck cares about the Revival? Can you honestly say that you like this tag team and that you're like entertained by them? Because I can honestly say that I am not. I am bored every time they show up. So, we're in the ring. Vince McMahon comes out, and, we're going to find out. Vince has got something to say. Cena comes out, begs him for a Universal title shot. Drew McIntyre comes out, and he basically says the same thing that he said last week. Your time is up, and my time is now. Guess it was like a play on John Cena's theme song. This brings out Corbin, and then out comes Balor. And, Vince McMahon says, there's a lot of, beef in the ring. I'm not really sure if he meant, like, the mass of, like, these wrestlers or, like, the beef, like, the anger. I think he kind of meant, like, the body type of these wrestlers. Anyway, Balor says that you never believed in me, Vince, and everything. And, it would have been more effective if Vince just came out and said, yeah, you're a little twerp. You're small. You don't belong. Look at these guys. And the thing is, I'm looking at all of these guys, and Corbin, Drew, and Cena, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, man, these guys, they look like they belong. And then you're looking at Balor, and he's just a little small schmuck, and he just got no presence or anything. He's just a guy. He comes out there, and I'm not gonna say that the guy doesn't have like a pretty good physique, but you look at him, and he just doesn't belong. There's all these wrestlers, all the greats, they all have a feel. Cena has a feel. Even Drew, when he came out there, he had a feel. Batista, Triple H, obviously, do I need to say The Rock and Austin? I mean, there's so many people that had a feel when they came out over the years. And then you've got a guy like Balor. And it's like, okay, the only time there's a feel is when he dresses up as the Demon. But why do I have a feeling that we're not even gonna get the Demon? Okay, I'm just kind of foreshadowing here. But, he ends up adding in Balor into the mix, and, there we go. Just shoehorning Balor in there at the last minute. It's like, they built this matchup, and, I thought that it was probably that maybe Braun wasn't ready to compete by the time the Rumble rolls around. And that turns out, like I said, it's not the case. It's mostly that it was a bait and switch. They had this planned out from the very beginning. And I hope that there is not a lot of truth to that rumor, because that is so shitty. That stupid ass bait and switch shit. I mean, how can you promote a pay-per-view and say you're going to have this match for weeks and then go on to build and then just have some lazy ass excuse why Braun's not going to be in the match? And while this is all going on, do you think that maybe Braun marches out there and beats the shit out of all of them, especially Balor, the most vulnerable one? No. I guess he's just content with flipping the limo over. I guess he went home. He's screwed out of a title shot. Vince McMahon just takes it away from him. And I guess, the monster among men is just fine and dandy with that. Up next, you've got Natalya, Nikki Cross, and Bayley defeating the Riot Squad. And if you notice how casually I just said Nikki Cross right there, why am I? Because who gives a shit? I mean, first of all, during this match, her team wins, but Bayley gets the pin. They don't even let Nikki get, they gave her time to shine this match, and all I get is this is Nikki Cross. It's basically the same thing she did on SmackDown against Becky Lynch. She comes out, she grits her teeth like this, winds her eyes, and she just, hit herself in the head a few times, and that's about it. I mean, and she repeated this throughout the match, every 2 minutes, gritting her teeth, doing this, the most generic psycho routine. I said this with her on SmackDown. It's come on, could she, offer a little bit more, if she needs to? Consult Al Snow, consult Mick Foley, consult, any of the past legends that had any type of, insanity, or psychological gimmick where their gimmick was to be crazy. I mean, talk to some of these people and learn how to kind of put a little bit of more variety in your act. I'm not saying the faces are not good, but she just does so many of them, and it's just she's just another face in the crowd. They couldn't even be bothered to let her get the pin in this match, for God's sakes. Then you had Finn Balor and Jinder Mahal, and Jinder asked for a chance to get into the Fatal 4-Way at the pay-per-view. Later on in the night, so he could get a chance at the title at the Royal Rumble. So they put him in a match against whoever he chose from the Fatal 4-Way, and he picks Balor. And that was smart, because it's he's gonna pick the smallest guy, and Balor beats him probably the 10th time over the past year that he's beat him, and so Balor's still in it. So it's like, what the fuck was even the point of that? Just to have Jinder lose again? Like, really, like, why do we even need to have that match? It's like, okay, we get it. You don't have a lot of stock anymore in Jinder. He got legit, heat as WWE champion on SmackDown. He was probably the most interesting thing on SmackDown. Got the best promos. Probably has the best physique out of anybody in the whole company. But that is still not good enough for, whoever is making these decisions. So he's just going to keep losing to Balor to the end of time and doing the lame-ass Chanti gimmick. Like, god damn, does it really have to be cringy, all the time on this fucking show? I mean, alright, so we move on. And then we've got Lashley defeating Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins to win the Intercontinental Championship. Okay. So, like, we just put the belt on Dean. Dean is now, he's hot. He says that, Roman deserved his cancer. I've been saying this for weeks. I'm getting sick and tired of talking about it already. Oh, he turned on the Shield brothers, and there we go. They're already taking the title off of him. And, okay, I will say at least they're finally doing something with Lashley, but, he had to, cheat to win so much. Leo Rush with 1,000 different distractions during the match. And yes, Lashley did look like a powerhouse throwing them around. He looked like a star. He always does. But, let me get this straight. Why is he not in the world title picture, but Balor is? Did anybody notice something being a little bit off there? Bobby Lashley, you look at this guy, and he's not wrestling for an opportunity, at least, at that Universal Championship against Brock Lesnar. Does anybody realize that we could have had Lashley and Lesnar at the Rumble? And that, would already be a good match. You'd already be satisfying some of the smarks who even want to see that match. I want to see this match. Many people would be interested in seeing that match, but we didn't get that match. We're going to talk about what match we got. So, Lashley is your new Intercontinental Champion. Yay, I guess. I mean, like I said, at least they're doing something with him, but it's like, don't you think they probably could have came up with something better than this at the very least? Don't you think they could have at least, put him in a main event spot? Not as a mid-card. What does this do for him? He's already won the U.S. belt in the past. I mean, we're going to go on and this is the best, that they could do with Lashley. Why? Why is he not worthy of being in that Fatal 4-Way? Is he not, we can't even, think that he might even be allowed in that match? It's just a fucking qualifying match. And they couldn't even put him in that one. Then it was the moment of bliss. And I will say that Alexa Bliss looked really good here to me. But aside from that, Paul Heyman, just, he's here to talk about Lesnar. I mean, can we get a new shtick already? I know I've said it in the past, but it's also, the more and more I listen to Heyman, the more and more I notice the little, intricacies and the very annoying little nuances, or not really nuances, but nuisances is what I could say more, to just kind of put it more into perspective, is that what Heyman does is he has this very exaggerated way of talking. Oh, Brad, that's the showmanship. Heyman's just being over the top. It's just I'm so sick and tired. Heyman is a good promo guy. I'll never forget him at ECW One Night Stand, the great promos. He did a really good job on commentary during Jerry the King Lawler's absence, during the whole invasion angle in 2001. This guy is a marvel on the mic. He's great. But the thing is that he developed this weird way of speaking. And I don't think maybe it was right away in 2012, but I noticed it kind of around the time of when Lesnar beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30, but whatever the case may be, I would need to go back and watch some of it. I think he was like this also when he was, managing CM Punk. Whatever the case may be, Heyman has this strange, halting way of speaking, almost, like William Shatner, but not as cool, and I won't even insult William Shatner's name by comparing him to Paul Heyman and these, very tiresome promos. All he does is kind of like say the same thing but in different ways, and it's like tiresome, and he repeats himself, and he just has like this commercial-esque feeling to him. And I remember when he was on the Stone Cold podcast, he kind of put it into perspective. He says that he is like the salesman for a pay-per-view, but instead there's not really pay-per-view anymore. These things are on pay-per-view, but they're not really pay-per-views. They're on the network for subscribers. So it's like there's really no need to kind of sell it anymore. So it's like, I don't know what to think, but he sounds very, I don't want to say robotic, but he goes by the same formula, and he thinks it's like okay to just, keep cutting the same promo over and over again. And he just sounded so dry and so tiresome after a while. Like, he needs to stop. Like, break out of this little shtick thing that you're doing, Paul. Like, and adopt something new. Go back to the way you used to cut promos, because you're actually really good. But the way you do it now, it's just like, man, it's so cringeworthy. And the fact that it's gone on for so long makes me cringe when I think about it even harder. And then, we've got the right out of nowhere. It's the tag titles are revealed, and they looked like really fucking cheap. Like, they looked like belts out of like TNA, for fuck's sakes, or Impact Wrestling. Excuse me. I mean, they just looked so like tiny and just, I don't know. They looked like just very cheap looking, and I'm sure they're not, but man, they just, I don't know. I know people are going to say I'm nitpicking, I'm just finding things, but I'm like, really, like this company just can't get anything right. It's as simple as that. So these tag titles, they're going to have from what I understand, some type of multiple women's tag match at the Elimination Chamber, and like, okay, so these girls are going to kill themselves, and again, in the Elimination Chambers for some lousy tag titles. And okay, we all know how this is going to go. Obviously, Sasha is going to lose her match to Ronda Rousey, and then Bayley and Sasha are going to go back to their little fucking tag team, and that's going to be it probably. I'll be very surprised if they're not the first ever tag champs, because that's what they wanted. Like, man, who's looking forward to this? Do we really want to see 1,000 in one of these Riot Squad versus, Natalya and Bayley? It's like, I don't even have the energy to even rant on them. There was one earlier in the night, the one that Nikki Cross was in. I just talked mostly about Nikki Cross, but then again, it is also another ensemble of the same fucking match that we've been seeing week after week. Okay, so then after tag titles and Paul Heyman are out of the way, one of the Heavy Machinery guys comes out, and he just starts going like, "Oh, pretty lady," and like, whoa, like, this was cringy as fuck. Like, holy cow. What is going on here? Like, they bring Bliss out for like her own talk show, and they waste no time about making this as horrible as it could possibly be. I mean, in every single possible way. That this just like, I was like, holy shit, what is this? And like, why is he out there? And then they kind of do this like little routine, like the other guy's trying to get, Otis under control. It's like, who the hell is Otis? I didn't even recognize the guy. He's the guy from Heavy Machinery. This is how they debut Heavy Machinery. Oh, and by the way, we saw Finn Balor walking by Lacey Evans backstage. And like, okay, I'll be honest, the Lawler thing, I had to go searching for it because I wanted to see Lawler, but I mostly watched this show in clips. So I was like, I didn't even see that with Balor, on his way out to face Jinder Mahal, and Lacey Evans was in the back. It's like, they didn't even say that it was Lacey Evans. So why would anybody give a shit? Because no one is like, I know what some people are gonna say. Oh, they're gonna say, oh, what a pretty girl, But who, I'm gonna have to tune in next week to find out who she is. It's no, they're not. And based on Heavy Machinery, it's like, okay, who is going to be excited for Heavy Machinery after this? It wasn't even funny. It wasn't provoking. I thought Heavy Machinery was supposed to be like a tough group, but to me it seems like, it's kind of like a Lenny, like kind of like an of mice and men type of routine. I mean, we already got this with Jesse and Festus, over a decade ago. I mean, and we're kind of like going to the same thing here, where we got like one guy who's like stupid and the other one kind of like keeps him in check. I mean, like, come on, like really, like this is this is what we're getting here. This is the fresh start. This is the new faces. I mean, you could keep the new faces. Don't even bring them in. I mean, this is just horrible. Like, this is what's on the horizon for this company, and the year just got started, folks. WrestleMania is right around the corner. The Royal Rumble is this Sunday, isn't it? Like, shit. Like, wow. I mean, damn. This is horrible. Like, holy shit. Like, wow. Oh, yo. Let's move on. So, the moment you've all been waiting for. Finn Balor defeated John Cena, Drew McIntyre, and Baron Corbin to become the #1 contender to face Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble for the Universal Championship. What a bunch of fucking morons. I mean, honestly, the Royal Rumble. I think back to the Royal Rumble, and I think back to some great main events of the Royal Rumble, like throughout like history, like what the matches we've seen at the Royal Rumble. The Rock beating Mankind senseless with a steel chair like 10 times in a row. You had Triple H and Kurt Angle in like a mat classic at the 2001 Royal Rumble. You had Triple H and Mankind in a street fight for the ages at the 2000 Royal Rumble. I mean, so many classic matches taking place at the Royal Rumble for a world title. And what do we got this year? Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar. And, like, do you really think, and are we really supposed to buy, if Braun Strowman can't even beat Brock Lesnar, are we really supposed to sit here and believe in our heart of hearts that actually Balor could beat Brock Lesnar? Like honestly. I mean, we saw what he did to Daniel Bryan. We've seen what he's done to AJ Styles, who is bigger than Finn Balor. Are we really going to sit there and try to, like, believe in our minds that somehow this guy at such a massive, weight and height disadvantage is going to be able to even stand toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar? I mean, honestly, at least he could say that with Daniel Bryan, that at least he has MMA training. At least he's a submission specialist. At least Bryan looks like a star. At least Bryan cuts promos. At least Bryan was tearing the house down from a promo sense on the last episode of SmackDown. I mean, at least you could say that. At least you could say that Bryan could add to the build. But instead, you never believed in me, Vince. You never believed in me. I mean, like, honestly. And I'm seeing people on their YouTube page, that on WWE's YouTube page, that is. They're all commenting, saying, well, I like Finn Balor. What a underrated guy. I believe in him. I had to respond to one particular commenter on there where he says, Finn Balor has captured my heart. Like, Like, he's captured his heart. I mean, like, how fucking romantic. I mean, how can anybody's heart be captured by Finn Balor? I mean, you look at the guy, and he's as plain Jane as it gets. I mean, not an ounce of charisma. They even had Dolph Ziggler call him a charisma vacuum during one episode of Raw, or on SmackDown, wherever it was. I mean, so the cat was already out of the bag. I mean, honestly, like, no charisma, no personality, no nothing. I mean, you know, are they even going to be bothered to paint him up and make him the demon, at least to make the match somewhat bearable? But we're going to, like, have to sit here and believe. I believe in you, Finn. And, you know, then they have, of course, John Cena's got to raise his hand and everything. And the thing is, guys, what really just annoyed the shit out of me about this is that Finn Balor, out of all the people that he could have pinned in this match, he pinned John Cena. He pinned Cena. He stomps on him like a 3-year-old, you know, like having a temper tantrum. You know, he does his little shitty looking stomp, and he pins Cena in the ring. Something that should have been reserved for Drew McIntyre, who was in this match. I said, why not Bobby Lashley? Why not Dean Ambrose, at least, you know, who you were building up? I mean, you know, no, like, okay, let's give it to Balor. You know, for whatever reason. Like Balor is any more over than he was last year when they originally were going to do the match. I mean, like, seriously? Like, and Cena getting pinned here, that was a privilege reserved for the elite. Remember when only guys like Batista, The Rock, and Brock Lesnar were able to get that distinct honor of pinning John Cena, the unbeatable Super Cena? And it felt truly special. We really stood back and you're like, wow, this guy is truly great, because he actually pinned Cena. WWE, you know, views this person so highly that he is the only one who will be able to actually pin Cena. I mean, like, everybody, like, you know, guys that were so talented wouldn't even be given that go ahead to pin Cena. But now we're seeing guys like Nakamura pinning him, who, you know, they don't even give a shit about him anymore. Like, and we're seeing Fat Boy Kevin Owens, and now the latest, Finn Balor of all people. You're gonna honestly, like, tell me, like, this is okay? Is this really okay with, like, anybody out there? Like, honestly, can you really fucking sit there and say you're cool with Finn Balor pinning John Cena and, you know, punching his ticket to go to the Royal Rumble? What a crock of fucking shit. I know people will say, oh, he's breaking the glass ceiling. He isn't even gonna win at the Rumble. They've already pretty much confirmed that shit. And it's going to get even worse. I mean, I don't even know if it's worse or about the same, or, you know, I don't know, or maybe slightly better. But, you know, you're going to have Seth freaking Rollins, and he's going to possibly wrestle Brock at WrestleMania. Holy fucking shit. I mean, my God. Like, if you're going to have Lesnar be the champ, I mean, so we're never going to get the Braun Strowman match. That was a bait and switch. I mean, like, if that's the case, then where the hell is Braun going to end up at Mania? Is he going to end up in the same position? Is he going to pick a different kid out of the audience to be his tag partner? Oh, what's Elias doing tonight? Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention what Elias was doing. Well, he was at the beginning of the show, and he plays a song for Braun to tell Corbin where he's hiding. Is he doing anything else on the show? No, he's not. Is he in this match? No, he's not. But Finn Balor is. Forget about all these guys. You know, forget about the fact that, you know, Elias drew probably more heat than anybody late last year. Remember when he made that Seattle Supersonics comment and the whole crowd booed his ass, you know, and it was basically the delivery. I said that maybe anybody could have cut that line, but I think it might have been the way how it was cut. So, you know, there was definitely times, and there were times, like I said, 2018, where people were chanting Elias is, named to walk with Elias. Everybody was saying it with them. But, and Braun and Elias were definitely some of the most over stars in 2018. And look at the position they're in now. One of them gets, like, not even 2 minutes of FaceTime. Did he even fucking get a minute? No. Okay, probably not. And then you've got Braun Strowman, who, okay, I understand that he is, like, he shows up late, that he's unreliable, but I mean, like, why even go through all the trouble of putting him in the world title match and all that just to, like, whisk it away? I mean, like, talk about fucking yourselves over. I mean, all I'm trying to do by doing these videos is just basically try to say, like, hey, like, this product could be so much better. I mean, like, just don't do this shit, basically. Like, and you'd have a better product for it. I mean, and this is how they start off their 2019, by letting, Balor, like, basically you're saying that he was the best man out of everybody here, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit. They're not interested in having ratings. They're not interested in building stars. It's just like, okay, Balor's the flavor of the month. We're going to shut the marks up. We're misusing Balor. We're not utilizing Balor. He's been saying that same line, oh, I never lost a championship. Okay, great. Fantastic. You should have never won it in the first place. I'd love to have that just buried down in the annals of time, where we could just, completely forget about the fact that he even held that belt. But, whatever. We're not allowed to forget, because that's probably the only thing that makes Balor even worthwhile than anything. He hasn't really won any other championship, so it's like, okay, so they got to just keep reminding us, what's his, his claim to fame. I mean, besides being the Demon, which he rarely uses, I mean, yeah, he's the first ever Universal Champion, but he hasn't looked like much of a Universal Champion the whole year. I mean, Corbin himself, they had him beat Balor's ass down for most of 2018, and all of a sudden he's a big star that gets Cena's approval. This is like a fucking mess. I mean, if you were gonna give him this shot, fine, but at least, like, build the guy up. I mean, like, you tore his ass down, and now you're like, oh, well, here's a title shot. Like, all of a sudden he goes from looking super fucking weak to looking like, he could just, like, own all these, big stars here. Guys that are, like, double his size. Guys, need I say more? Need I say more? I mean, this is just about as bad as it could fucking get. I mean, this is beyond horrible in every sense of the word. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please hit a thumbs up if you did. And if you love Balor and you think he deserves that title shot, hit a thumbs down and tell me why. Maybe, your heart's been captured by Balor. Oh, how lovely. How romantic. And you can hit the bell also, so you get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. Make sure you subscribe. Check out some of the other content I have posted here. And guys, thank you for watching. This is your YWC champ, and I'm signing out.